Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us. My name is Michael Dockery from Design Industries. We're Atlassian Solution Partners, helping organisations make the most of the platform. And welcome to the first of our Meet the Marketplace Vendor webinar series, because there's so many great plugins on the marketplace that do amazing things to add capability and functionality to the organization, and there's so many that not everyone's aware, and we can get the opportunity to deep dive. So we've got Jackson and Himanshu from Addteq, and they're going to run us through a couple of their top products, Unstoppable and Excellentable, and tell us more about them, because they're both quite interesting in how they apply. So we are going to have questions. Put your questions in the chat box along the way. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of each product, so we can have a chat. So just be mindful that this session is going to be recorded. So if you're asking questions, just keep your confidential information confidential, we'll see what we can do. So thanks very much, everybody, and take it away, Jackson.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate that introduction, and thank you to Design Industries for setting this up. We're always happy to sort of let the broader Atlassian community know about our products. So I will tell you a little bit about Addteq. We're a verified government and Platinum Atlassian Solutions Partner. So we work a lot with the government and the public sector, as well as larger enterprise corporations. For over a decade, we've helped organizations with their DevOps needs, from simple lift and shifts to custom projects to plugin development. So we created two best-in-class plugins, that's Excellentable and Unstoppable, and these enhance key features and key Atlassian tools, as well as we have a managed hosting platform called Code Factory. And today we're going to be talking to you about the accessibility needs for the visually impaired in technology, and discuss how Addteq's tool Unstoppable really helps organizations meet these needs. We're also going to review Excellentable, which is a dynamic spreadsheet tool, and which has become increasingly important for teams in remote work environments as a collaborative utility. We work with many well-established organizations such as Bank of America, Shutterstock, Booz Allen Hamilton, the Army, the Navy, Disney, those have really stretched across all of these different products. So to tell you guys a little bit more about the world of visual accessibility and people with visual impairments, there's kind of a few interesting both storylines that sort of brought Addteq to creating this product, as well as bits of information that we sort of accumulated over the time. You could hop to the next slide, Himanshu. So one of the things that brought a lot of attention to visual impairment and sort of ADA guidelines was an actual lawsuit that came against Domino's Pizza. So here in the US, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of a visually impaired plaintiff who basically wasn't able to order a pizza on Domino's delivery app. And what that court ruling ended up meaning is that any visually impaired person could sue a company under ADA guidelines if their website or app wasn't accessible through a screen reading software or the like. So that kind of ended up going all the way up the chain to government mandates, and eventually every organization's website and app will need to be accessible. So in Australia, there's been some significant reforms in disability care in both policy and service delivery currently, to really ensure that people who are blind or who have low visibility are supported to remain independent and empowered to participate in their community. And there's currently 600,000 Australians that have sight loss. Here in the United States, we actually have 7.5 million people who are listed as having a visual disability. So the number is pretty significant. And just in 2017, Stack Overflow, which some of you may be familiar with, they did a survey of 64,000 developers, and it covered a wide range of questions. But one of the pieces of information that they pulled from that was actually 1 in every 100 developers is visually impaired. So there's a lot more visually impaired developers than you may realize. In the US and around the world, there's a shortage of overall software developers to design, build, and maintain the software that's really increasingly critical to our day-to-day lives. And at the same time, the software development community is a largely homogeneous group. And so diversifying this group can really yield significant benefits to society. And people who are blind or visually impaired are great candidates to fill this shortage and diversify the software development workforce as a whole. And since software is not an inherently visible artifact, a lack of sight does not put blind software developers at a disadvantage as long as they have accessible tools. And that's why we found it so important to create something like Unstoppable. Um, Blind people's use of screen readers, which are programs that verbalize text on a screen. And you'll hear us play a few videos as they come up that will actually allow you to hear one of these screen readers play through a screen. This suggests that a textual source code used to implement most software should be accessible to a blind developer. And in fact, blind developers' compensatory abilities, such as enhanced serial memory, often gives them actual significant advantage over sighted developers. So coming into Addteq, that was something that I found very intriguing, that you actually may find that a visually impaired developer has a higher level of creativity and serial memory than your average person. And with that, I'm going to let Himanshu sort of deep dive into the products with you a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Jackson. So like Jackson mentioned, accessibility for visually impaired users is a major challenge. And for the Atlassian ecosystem, we built Unstoppable as an app for Jira software, Confluence, and Jira Service Desk, which is also now been renamed to Jira Service Management. So we build apps for these major Atlassian products, and we distribute it through the Atlassian Marketplace. And by using Unstoppable, your organization can meet 508 and A11Y compliance with WCAG 2.1 standards. And we are compatible with the two major screen readers used by a lot of visually impaired users. The first one is JAWS, and the second one is NVDA. And in today's presentation, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of some of the key features and walk you through a few demo videos as well. So once you install the app, the Unstoppable app through the Atlassian Marketplace, as long as the user is using their standard screen reader software, they can access all of the features that Unstoppable provides for the Atlassian tools. And in terms of the features, one of the key features is how do you detect a visually impaired user? And automatic detection is very important from that aspect. Unstoppable automatically recognizes a visually impaired user and prompts them to enable Unstoppable based on different heuristics, based on the different types of keyboard shortcuts that the user might be using to navigate the Jira. And what this allows is any user to be fully independent, and they have the ability to opt in and enable the features provided by Unstoppable. So this way we are enabling accessibility in a more dynamic way, rather than solely relying on the tool admin to enable this feature for that particular user. So let's look at a quick video example of how the automatic detection feature works. And in the video examples, we are using the JAWS screen reader. If you were using the NVDA screen reader, your experience would be pretty similar.
-100 tab, toggle swim lane visibility, but tab, UN sprint. Tab, start sprint button on a tab, collapse menu link, tab, view summary of assigned work, tab, UN-16 link, tab, UN-33 link, tab, UN-77 link, tab.
So if you've never experienced a screen reader before, some of this may seem a bit strange, but what's happening is the user is using the JAWS screen reader to navigate this page, this Agile board backlog page within Jira software. and the screen reader is helping the user navigate by reading out the particular section of the page that the user is currently navigating through. And since we detected that the user is using these keyboard shortcuts, we bring up this dialogue, and the screen reader would also read out this dialogue for the user, and it would basically ask the user if they want to enable all of the additional features provided by Unstoppable. And the user also has the option to directly enable or disable this feature by using the keyboard shortcuts Control Alt U. So basically we have two different scenarios, right? So the first scenario is based on some of the natural keyboard shortcuts the user is using. We attempt to auto detect the user. The second is if the user has the knowledge that they can use the keyboard shortcut Control Alt U, they can directly use that to enable or disable the feature. And our goal with Unstoppable for Jira is to enable the user to perform their day-to-day tasks to be productive within this tool. And if you're using Jira, you need the capability to create new issue, edit issue, traverse through issues, search for existing issues, and the ability to collaborate with your peers by being able to post comments on issues, and also the ability to assign issues to your colleagues. And we really want to enable these essential features for the user so that they don't feel constrained by their visual impairment. So next, let's take a look at another example. This time, we will look at an example of how the user would post a comment on an issue so that they can collaborate.
Links list dialog. Links list view COMMENT. Tab. Move the link button to active space. Link comment. Comment link. Commenter. Comment edit. Type in text.
So I'm going to mute the audio, but the screen reader, along with all of the keyboard shortcuts built in Jira, as well as the additional keyboard shortcuts that Unstoppable and the screen reader provide, enable the user to select the comment text box within this particular Jira issue, and then the user is able to post a comment. The user also can mention one or more of their colleagues while posting the comment, and then the user is able to use the different features of the screen reader and the keyboard shortcuts to be able to then select the comment add button and proceed to post the comment. So let's take look at some other stuff. Um, and as we know, Jira software is also used for agile project management. And we wanted to make sure that we also support some of the agile features, such as the ability to view sprints, the ability to move issues into sprints, the ability to create and manage sprints, the ability to move through the backlog, move issues in and out of the backlog, and to search for issues in the backlog. So by supporting these features, we enable the user to actively participate in all of the agile features. Jira is also used for the entire software development lifecycle and for managing software releases. And it has this built-in feature. There's a releases page, sometimes also called the release hub for a Jira project, and we support that feature as well. So moving on to Jira Service Management, also known as Jira Service Desk. Now within Jira Service Management, you have two distinct roles. So the first role is that of a customer, and a customer is basically the consumer of this tool, of the help desk system that is enabled by Jira Service Management. And the customer has to be able to perform operations such as the ability to create a new support request, the ability to search for knowledge base articles, and the ability to navigate and search for some existing requests. And we enable all of these features, and we make these features compatible with the screen reader software. On the other side, beyond just the customer or consumer of Jira Service Management, you also have the agent role. And the agent role is the one that is actively triaging and processing these requests created by the customer. And our goal is to enable the agent to perform all of the essential duties, such as being able to navigate through the queues, the ability to navigate and access the reports and SLA, and be fully productive with the agent features of Jira Service Management. And we support all of these. Moving on to Confluence. And with Confluence as well, we, with the help of Unstoppable, we strive to meet all of the accessibility standards and for compliance. And we support all of the essential day-to-day must-have features, such as the ability to create a new Confluence page, the ability to edit a page, the ability to search within a Confluence space, the ability to comment on a page, and the ability to add labels to a page both in view and in edit mode. So we have an example for Confluence where we look at how the user would add labels to a Confluence page.
View mode dash superhero dash Confluence. Captain America is adding a label and links list dialog. EDIT. Like 30. Edit labels. Move the link button to activate. Press space bar. Alt plus M. Space. Link edit labels. Space. Help labels. Close shortcut tip colon and page view. Pressing L.
So we can see that with the help of the screen reader and the keyboard shortcuts, the user is able to bring up the labels dialog, and then the user can proceed to add labels for this particular page. And once they are done, they can close the dialog. And as you can already see in the background, the user was able to add this label called superhero to this particular Confluence page. So we've seen some of the key features that we enable for accessibility, but in terms of customers, we have a wide range of customers spanning across a wide range of organizations and industries. But these are some of the ones that we definitely like to highlight, like Bank of America, the U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, Library of Congress, NSA, Bureau of Land Management, amongst many others. So that was it in terms of the features we wanted to highlight for Unstoppable. Before we move on to Excellentable, just wanted to pause to see if there are any questions that we can answer.
Thanks very much, Himanshu. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think for a lot of people, the first time you experience the sound of the screen reader, it really does make you realize what a different world a visually impaired person must be dealing with when they're interfacing with a computer and a browser. And it was interesting what you're saying as well about serial thought. And you could, even the thought, it occurred to me as it was going through, it's such a step, and that's how a visually impaired person must experience the web.
Exactly.
Yeah, so really, really incredible. So yeah, look, I'd encourage people who've joined us today, if you'd like to unmute and join the conversation. If you've got any questions, absolutely feel free to ask. And while perhaps you're thinking of a question, I've got a question.
Sure.
I guess perhaps around the implementation of this type of plugin. So yeah, you've got a large organization, you might have more than one Atlassian platform, you might have the enterprise platform. What does the implementation path look like?
Sure. So in terms of implementation, there are probably two aspects to it. One is sort of the technical aspects in terms of how you set up the plugin, and then the second is more of the process and the evaluation criteria. So in terms of the technicalities, this is simplified to a great deal because of the Atlassian Marketplace, since any Atlassian tool user can download and enable Unstoppable by accessing it, the trial version through the Marketplace feature that is built into the tool. Now, in terms of the evaluation criteria, each organization may have their own nuances in terms of how they go about making the decision to evaluate a tool like Unstoppable, and how they eventually make the final decision as to a go or no go. But usually there is either a particular group within that organization that may have a visually impaired user that may have a need for tool like Unstoppable, or there might be an organization-wide initiative where they are evaluating all of the options that can enhance or improve the state of accessibility for Atlassian tools. And based on that evaluation criteria, usually they will compare the out of the box user experience of using screen readers with the Atlassian tools, and then they may evaluate a solution like Unstoppable to see what are some additional features that it enables. And based on that, they'll have an evaluation criteria as to whether this meets all of the requirements or expectations in order to proceed with a full version of the tool. Usually, I think there's some variation of that process that we see. And also, any customer that is actively evaluating the tool, we also provide assistance from our side. We have a visually impaired user in our team in terms of on the QA side of things. And that user can also sometimes provide assistance in terms of helping our customers debug any issues that they may encounter on their end. So we work hand in hand with our customer throughout the evaluation process.
I think that's worth noting, because yeah, there is some specialist support to help yeah, implement this product, because it does obviously require some niche testing to be done really effectively. Yeah. Okay, no, that's thanks for that. Question from the audience, which is around release dates and how far behind are you guys with Jira and JSM and Confluence releases and your compatibility updates for Unstoppable?
So usually anytime there is a new Atlassian release, we basically run it through our automated QA process. If we discover any issues, we may also then sort of investigate and see when we can fix those issues in order to release the compatibility. And we rely on a good set of automated test suite, but also, sometimes that may require some level of manual intervention, especially if there's any major UI changes that may be introduced by Atlassian. But usually we try to stay up to date with the latest Atlassian releases. Sometimes we might be a few weeks behind based on the velocity on the Atlassian side. But yeah.
But a lot of the time, I guess organizations be waiting for the enterprise release anyway, and hopefully, yeah, you've caught up by then. Because
exactly.
Yeah, they change everything all the time, don't they? Which is good. And maybe that sort of leads on to another question around cloud. So cloud versus, well, it's not server for much longer, but the on-prem version, data center. Do you have any comments there?
So currently, we support Unstoppable for the on-prem version, which is the server and data center. In terms of cloud, we are still evaluating the feasibility as well as we're evaluating the entire landscape. So we are still in sort of a R&D mode for cloud. So we'll probably make an announcement based on our findings.
Sure. Okay. Does anyone have other questions? Anything you'd like to know about Unstoppable? I guess the demand generation for this particular requirement, I think you mentioned it before, might come from an organizational wide initiative to try and make the tools more accessible as part of, yeah, or potentially just from an individual team. What's your experience there about where those requests come from?
So I think I can take a little bit of that one. I think that it really comes in two parts. From one aspect, it is often organizations thinking about the customer itself. So, I had mentioned like the Domino's case. Many companies' Confluence pages or their JSM essentially are their customer-facing portals, and they wear different faces. But having those be accessible to any and every potential customer is very important. So there is the customer-facing aspect of this where it can really help enable your Atlassian suite and any parts of that do deal not just with your own customers but with potentially partners or anybody else that you're working with, to make sure that you're compliant and you're up to date there. And then, as you mentioned, Michael, it can come internally as well, and I think that it's usually one of two things. Either there are already some people that are visually impaired in your organization, and you want to make sure that your mission critical tools are meeting all of the the ADA guidelines, and that you're giving those people in your company the same playing field as everyone else. But I think that there's also an element of just making your overall tools inclusive, so that as you're going through a hiring process in and of itself, you do not have to sort of discriminate out anybody that could be a great candidate for your team.
Yeah, and I think that's really the one of the keys, I guess. Yeah, is not being limited because of potential superstars limitations. So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else we'd like to mention or ask on Unstoppable? Otherwise, perhaps we could move on to Excellentable.
All right, great.
Cool. Thanks, Himanshu.
Sure. So let's move on to Excellentable. So within Confluence, you have a rich set of built-in features. And one of the features is you can create tables. These are pretty basic and fairly limited in terms of what you can do with the built-in tables feature in Confluence. And you can run into the need to have full-fledged spreadsheets within Confluence. The reason being that is, Confluence by itself lets you collaborate on all kinds of rich text content with your colleagues as well as your team members. But if you are dealing with tabular data, and especially if you are trying to collaborate on full-fledged spreadsheets, then the built-in tables features alone doesn't suffice, because you need features like the ability to apply rich formatting, you need formulas, and many other features. And that's where Excellentable comes in. And we introduced this feature natively within Confluence. You don't need any additional software apart from installing the Excellentable app in your Confluence instance. And you can either start from an empty spreadsheet, or you can also import existing Excel data or CSV. And another way to look at Excellentable is that if you look at this Venn diagram, right? If you look at three key aspects, the first is rich spreadsheet features such as formatting and formulas. The second key feature being native spreadsheets that reside within your browser inside of Confluence. And then the third aspect is something pretty unique to Excellentable amongst all of the marketplace apps. Because we are the first and only Atlassian Marketplace app that supports collaborative editing. And you might recall a few years ago, Confluence itself introduced collaborative editing within its built-in page editor, where multiple users can collaborate and edit the document at the same time. But none of the marketplace apps really caught on to this feature. Maybe for a lot of the marketplace apps, this may not be relevant, but for an app like Excellentable, which is rich spreadsheets, we feel that it would be incomplete without collaborative editing. And we were the first app, and as far as I know, I haven't seen any other app mention that they support a similar collaborative editing feature. Until recently, we only supported collaborative editing for our server and data center version. But in our most recent cloud release, we also introduced it to our cloud version, bringing feature parity to our cloud version to bring it up to par with our server and data center release. In terms of customers, we have a wide range of customers across all of the major verticals, from entertainment giants such as Marvel Industries to different types of insurance and finance organizations, and government organizations, and everything else in between. All of these major organizations are currently using Excellentable. So within Excellentable, like I mentioned, you can start with a blank spreadsheet. We also allow you to convert a native Confluence table into a spreadsheet. We also support the option to import and export CSV or Excel. And we also have some built-in templates. So you really cannot have a spreadsheet without formulas. So let's take a look at an example video of that feature. Oops, so just give me a quick second. All right. Jackson, is my screen still visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, sorry about that. Um, so let me load this. All right. So right now we're looking at the Excellentable editor, and we have a couple of columns of data. And on column D, we have some numeric data in the amount column. And in row number 14, we are able to use the sum formula to basically add up all of the values in that particular column. We can then proceed to also apply currency formatting by selecting that range of data and clicking on that dollar icon, which applies the currency formatting. We're also able to apply a few other types of formatting and able to publish it. And once we publish that change, let me go back a bit. And once we publish that change, that spreadsheet is embedded directly within the Confluence page that the user was working on. So what's really neat about Excellentable is that the spreadsheet is embedded directly as part of the page content. But in terms of the editor, you can go into this full screen view and have a really immersive experience when you are editing that particular spreadsheet.
I think right now we have over 400 supported formulas.
So we pretty much support all of the major formulas supported by popular spreadsheet tools like Excel and Google Sheets. And what's also neat about Excellentable is that with Excellentable, unlike other cloud alternatives like Google Sheet, all of your data resides within your Confluence instance. So it provides a collaborative experience enabled by the cloud, yet all of your data remains private to your instance of Confluence. And that's one of the leading reasons why a lot of our customers choose Excellentable over other alternatives. And as we saw in the video, we have the option to apply different types of formatting to your data within Excellentable. You can apply font changes, font size, colors. You can apply text formatting like overflow and apply borders to a group of cells. You can also format numbers as we saw in the example earlier. You can apply currency formatting, percentage. You can control the decimal points by increasing or decreasing the number of decimal points. We also have support for scientific numbers. It's automatic for large numbers. We also support date formatting, both the long and short version. Some of the other key features that we support are data validation and conditional formatting. Data validation used to be one of the most requested features, but we implemented this some time back. And this is a very powerful spreadsheet feature, and a lot of the power users definitely consider both data validation and conditional formatting must have. And we support both of these features. And in terms of the how to for accessing all of these, we have inline documentation. You can use the help menu within Excellentable to go to our documentation site, and you can look up detailed instructions on how to use these features. But most of these features are pretty intuitive based on what you would see in the UI. Apart from what we just saw, we also support a wide range of other features. Um, one of the features also is versioning. So similar to how you have versioning built into a Confluence page, where every time you make a change, it creates a new version. We support a similar type of versioning within Extendable. As you can see in this screenshot, on the right-hand side, we have the version history, where you can view the date and time when that particular version was created. You can also see what user created that version when they made the change to that particular Extendable. And we also have the option to revert and go back to an older version if you have some reason to revert some recent changes. Also, when you're working within Extendable, if you let's say your browser or computer crashes, we save a draft automatically, because our goal is to preserve the changes of the user and to prevent any kind of accidental data loss by having this kind of autosave feature. If you have made some changes and if you mistakenly try to close the browser window, we also prompt the user asking them to confirm, since we don't want them to lose those changes that they just made. Um, we also support the option to protect both the cells as well as the sheets within Extendable. Um, and this can help sort of prevent accidental changes, because at times you may want to freeze some of the data within your spreadsheet, and you want to prevent yourself or others from accidentally making some changes to those sheets or cells within Extendable. So the protect feature can help with that. We also provide the option to hide rows or columns. And this can be useful if you are trying to export a Confluence page, because you may want Extendable to look like the native Confluence tables when you export the page to PDF or when you print out the page. So we support that as well. And like I mentioned, collaborative editing is one of the very unique features of Extendable that we're really proud of. And let me show you a quick video example of how it may look like. And in this video, we'll just see several users editing the same Extendable at the same time. So let's take a look at how that may look like. The UI has updated a bit since we recorded the video, but it should still give you a pretty good general feel of how collaborative editing works. So in this example, we can see the first user started adding some columns. The second user, joined in. On the top right corner, you can see like different user avatars, similar to how the way you would see different users editing the same Confluence page. We try to mimic the similar user experience for Extendable as well. And the user is applying a series of changes along with the other users at the same time. And then this particular user that we were seeing the view of this particular user, and that particular user saved the changes that they were making and went back to the view mode. But if we go back a bit, the other users would basically still be in edit mode from their own computers when they're editing this spreadsheet at the same time. And on the top right, the user avatars would basically let you know who the users are in terms of the ones that are currently editing this particular page. So those were some of the key highlights for Excellentable. And like I mentioned, once you install the evaluation version of Excellentable from the Atlassian Marketplace, you can access our documentation for all of the features that we support. And you can also reach out to us by creating a support ticket if you run into any issues. We also have a live chat support if you need some assistance through that as well. So I guess we will pause for any questions that you may have at this point.
Thanks very much, Himanshu. Yeah, really interesting. So yeah, team, if you've got any questions, yeah, please put it in the chat, or just you can come off mute and just ask if you'd like. Yeah, I guess it's interesting because so many people use Excel, and I know how I am about Excel. I'm sure I use less than 2% of the application, and then you've got all these versions floating around. I guess for an organization that does have a lot of Excel spreadsheets and you want to try and implement, notice, you can drag and drop. Is that just how you'd go? You get grab your top 10, top 20 spreadsheets, go drag and drop, see how they look. You might need to tweak them, but they should be pretty much there. Is that the case?
Exactly, that's the case as well. So, we have two kinds of use cases where you may start with an empty spreadsheet directly, natively within Confluence, or you can bring your existing spreadsheets. You can just drag and drop and upload those to Excellentable, and your data and formatting should carry over. And our goal with the Excellentable is to basically support all of the core features of a standard spreadsheet. And especially with features like conditional formatting and data validation, those sometimes do tend to lean more towards the power user use cases, and we still support those. And a lot of our customers are definitely power users of Excel. So there might be some very sort of exotic features like macros that we may not support, but beyond that, all of the core functionality that spreadsheets have is supported within Excellentable.
Yeah, I think a really interesting recent example that we had, Michael, one of the largest hospitals in New York City, specifically in and around the time that the big kind of COVID hit. They were actually using Excellentable outside of their regular time tracking tool because they wanted to actually test, or they wanted to make note of how much time both the nurses and the doctors were specifically spending with COVID patients. And one of the initial issues that they were having was they were doing things outside of their Atlassian suite, and they weren't utilizing conditional formatting. So when they brought everything into Excellentable, they were able to set up conditional formatting so that like the different people that were inputting time, some people were putting it in as minutes, some people were putting it in as hours. So they were able to actually do the right conditional formatting so that anybody who was going in to put in the particular amount of time that somebody was spending, it was all uniform throughout. And then as you can imagine, in an organization that has thousands of people, and I think hundreds of people that were actually inputting the data, the version history and seeing who was going in and making changes also became very important to them. So it really became like this kind of mission critical tool for them throughout like that really kind of tough time that was happening in the New York hospitals in March and April.
Yeah, well, I think that's really to me, that's the beauty of what I guess the Atlassian and all the plugins can do for an organization is bring all that data and the team together. Because yeah, we're always talking about data integrity and the single source of truth, and being able to make that information easily accessible And I think that's what I really like about Excellentable is it takes, that really important information and it will eliminate our data integrity issues with versions, who's got it, what's the latest, is it up to date, or is it on the page where it can be self-served by an appropriate user. I think that's, that's the whole goal for me is to be able to provide, contextual data at any point in time that's correct and easy to manage. Okay, any questions, any other questions we'd like to answer today around Excellentable? I think it's actually probably relatively self-explanatory, very powerful, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's from being an account executive here. It's certainly a tool that I love to be able to talk to people about, because it kind of doesn't matter whether we are engaging in a services or a migration. Everybody kind of uses spreadsheets, and so if you're using Confluence and you want to sort of eliminate that very consistent workflow we hear of people working either in Google Sheets or Excel and importing and exporting that data, it just becomes, one of the handful of tools that you use every day.
Yes, because as you said, every organization's got bits and pieces of a spreadsheet somewhere
Right.
in multiple departments, because it's just such a useful way of organizing data. And to be able to bring that into the planning pages and the collaboration pages of Confluence, that's extraordinarily powerful. All right, well, look, thanks very much, Himanshu and Jackson, for running us through Unstoppable and Excellentable. I think it's been really insightful, very interesting, and thanks to our participants. I hope you got some value out of this, and obviously we'll be publishing it so you can refer later. And thanks very much for your time today in the first of our webinar series, Meet the Vendors. So enjoy your day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having us.
Michael.
Bye.
Cheers.